This is the most addictive art medium I've ever worked with. What I'm doing here is making a monoprint with a gel plate. You start off with a squishy gel-like plate, and I'm using acrylic paint, and you can create impressions of stuff around your house, like this paintbrush. One of my very favorite things to do with the gel plate is to grab leaves from my garden, press it into the wet paint, and create a print from the leaf. For this one, I was working with a fresh hosta leaf, and the amount of detail that it shows is just incredible. You can create a beautiful negative space print using something like a delicate, complex plant like this fern. But what has me hooked about the gel plate is that there's just so many things you can do. In this one, I started by making a rainbow gradient with that big roller that's called a brayer. And then I put embroidery floss down on black paint to create a fun rainbow reveal. A lot of times I'll do multiple layers on one piece of paper because there's really no limit to how many you can add. One of the absolutely magical things that you can do with a gel plate is create an image transfer. If you use a glossy magazine paper, like kind of high quality fashion magazine, you can imprint it into wet paint and get a beautiful image transfer. I have a whole course on gel plate printing with multiple projects to try, but in this video, I'm going to give you the basic supplies and tools that you're going to need so you can get started right away. The first thing you're going to need, obviously, is the gel plate. Gel plates are weird, they're squishy, they're flexible, they're reusable. Check my caption to download my full supply list if you want to know exactly what brands I use. So I'm going to slow it down just a little bit here and show you exactly how I made this cool feather print with this turkey feather that I found in my yard. Honestly, I'm totally like a bird. I'm always collecting weird things that might work to imprint into the gel plate, like feathers or weeds or garbage, recyclables and whatnot. I have a pile. My husband thinks I'm completely insane. Okay, so besides the gel plate, like I said, it comes in a couple different sizes. I'm using an 8x10 gel plate here. And I'm also using just basic heavy-bodied acrylic paint. There's a couple different kinds of paint you can use, but I really like just standard acrylic paint. Various different types and brands work just fine, and I've tried a lot of them. And in this one, obviously, I'm doing a gradient. And I have a giant brayer. I think this brayer is 12 inches long. It's by a brand called the Esdi. The brayers can come in all different sizes, as short as like 2 or 3 inches, but I like these big long ones for my gradient work. So here's the feather that I found in my yard, and I'm just placing it on the wet paint. And you have to work kind of quickly. If your paint dries, then it won't be effective. So you got to work fast at this point. And one of the things that's off camera here is I'm using a piece of watercolor paper that had already been printed. So there was already a gradient on the paper that I'm using here. And I'm pressing firmly all over because I want to make sure that I'm getting a firm adherence to the paint that's on the gel plate. And then the reveal is the most important part because every project is a little bit different. That's why it's called a monoprint. I'm going to show you another project. And like I said, I have a course where I think there's like maybe 30 different projects and ideas inside the course. And it's pretty cheap to get. You can join my subscription service, which is called Art Heart Academy, which is just a low monthly fee. And then you can get access to the Hip Gel course, plus a bunch of other things. You can also just buy the course outright. So if you want to make these along with me with a lot more detail, then I heartily welcome you. You can check it out in the captions. Meanwhile, I'm doing another botanical piece here. And one of the mistakes I see a lot is that people use a little bit too much paint. So you want to just put a very thin layer of paint. And then, like I said before, you really need to work fairly quickly because, of course, acrylic paint dries really fast. And once it's dry, it won't pick up properly. So you have a very short window of time. Then I am using watercolor paper. I'm just using 140-pound watercolor paper, but there's a lot of different kinds of paper that you can use. The gel plate is really quite flexible. But I like a paper with a little bit of heft to it. So that's why I like the watercolor paper. So you can see I'm really pressing down very firmly, rubbing the whole pad and making sure the paper is making full contact with everything. And this particular print is it's sort of a two-parter, because this is the first pull, which has like the negative space from those beautiful leaves, but that wasn't actually what I wanted. I wanted the second pull, which is sometimes called a ghost print. And so you can see here that I'm removing my little leaves off the gel plate, and it's leaving this imprint of the leaf details. And you can tell I am checking to see if it's dry. And in this case, I actually want it to be dry. And I actually jumped ahead here in the filming a little bit. I probably waited about 5 to 10 minutes to make sure that purple paint was fully dry, because now I'm doing the second coat, which is white paint, or it's kind of like an off-white. I have a little bit of a shorter brayer there. And again, not that much paint. And I'm just trying to like cover the whole gel plate with this cream colored paint. And this layer, I actually do want it to be wet. So I have my paper ready to go, and I'm pressing that down, firmly pressing to make sure it makes full contact. It's actually a really meditative and pleasant experience to like press to rub the paper. I don't know. I'm weird that way. So then now another filmmaking moment, I skipped ahead probably about 15 minutes, because you want to let the whole thing fully dry before you peel it up. And now everything is dry, and what will happen is that wet layer will pick up the dry layer underneath. And can you even believe this detail? It is so bloody beautiful. Okay, I'm going to show you another project that you can make with trash or your recycling, because like I was saying, I'm always collecting things that I think could make a cool texture for the gel plate. And in this one, I'm starting off with some black paint, not that much. I'm using the 8x10 gel plate, and I am using the brayer, as you can see, to make sure it's all kind of evenly distributed, but working kind of fast here because, like I said, it dries very quickly. And just a side note about the gel plate, they are reusable, and as far as I know, I've never had one wear out. They last forever. I think you can wreck them if you, I don't know, put them in the microwave or something. But other than that, they just kind of last forever. There's actually a way that you can make a gel plate, like a homemade gel plate, but I think that you're using actual gelatin. And I've never tried it, although I have seen the recipe before. And the thing about those is that they are perishable. So you have to keep them in the refrigerator, and then eventually after a couple of weeks they mold. So I decided that I would just buy the pre-made gel plate and not have to worry about it getting gross. And it works great. So one last idea for you here. I also really like using stencils with the gel plate. This is a smaller one. I think that's like a 6x10. And here's a stencil. You can either make your own, like a collage stencil that you're just cutting, or you can get one of those Mylar stencils that's pre-made, and they both work great. And a lot of times people ask me, what in the world do you do with all your prints? And I don't know. Sometimes I use them as collage material. Sometimes they just turn out awesome and they're like great art. Sometimes I gift them. And I think really the gel plate is all about the experience. Like, it's just really fun to make art this way. It would be great for kids. It's good for beginners, and it's relatively inexpensive. So it's like an easy setup to have a lot of different ideas and a lot of different concepts that you can make with just this one weird, strange printmaking material that honestly has been so much fun for me. So if you have had some inspiration from this video, I hope you go ahead and make something yourself. Please check out my supply sheet if you want to know exactly the materials that I use. And of course, like I mentioned, you can join my membership or buy the course if you want to dive in deeper with more instruction from me. And until next time, have a great day. Bye.